Hey everyone, welcome to the CSI Secret Store community call. Today is the September 16, 2021. This call falls under the CNCF Code of Conduct and will be recorded and published to YouTube. Please add your name to the attendees list. And I will be moderating the call. Does anyone want to help me with the notes for this call, or I can help take it?
I can try.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Okay, we have a pretty small agenda. So I think both the items are from Nileg. So Nileg, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. Can you open the first one? Actually, this is one of the PR that one of our community user has created. And there is a comment on it. Actually, Tommy, I wanted to check with you. I did not get that, to be honest. So if we can just take a look at it. So the PR was, this is, I was discussing with Anish like a while back. So the thing is, the flag that we have, right, matrix address, that has like some format like colon and then the port number. And the way I was thinking it is, why user has to think like they have to give in a specific format and things like that. So when we say port, we can just ask for a number and then we can format it the way we want, or way the matrix the matrix provider that we are using wants behind the scene. So that was the intention behind this PR. And here, like at that 915, I think we are just doing that. We are just formatting it with the colon and whatever integer or string we'll receive as a port number. So that's the idea.
Yes, sorry, I missed this. So the difference there is that the controller manager takes a binding address, which like a process may be running on a machine with multiple interfaces. So like specifically in Kubernetes, it's usually like the loopback interface, or if I think there's usually binding to like the 0.0.0.0 interfaces, like all interfaces. So it's a way of like controlling when you're listening for incoming connections, like which network interfaces to listen on. So by removing or like forcing it to be colon a port, that removes the ability to configure or granularly which interfaces to listen on. And that's my second comment. My first one is like, if we want to only accept a port, the flag name should say port, not address, since it's a common, like there are a number of applications that do that, but it can be confusing if the naming isn't like consistent around whether or not the configuration should be a port or an address. So okay. That's the first one. The second one is, I think it probably, like, I'm not sure if it makes sense in the context of, like, I'm not sure how often you would really be configuring different interfaces for these metrics. So, we might be able to do just the port, but that was the motivation behind my comment there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it now. Yeah, I mean, my idea was behind that is like, why we want to confuse users with this, or maybe I'm wrong and user is not confused, but I mean, let me know if that's the case. But the intention was like, instead of forcing user to think like all these things, we can just say, hey, and this is we are using just for the metrics. So we can just say your metrics will be at this metrics will be available at this port. Give us the port number if you want, or this will be a default port, something like that.
Tommy,
And-
could you, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Could you re-explain your first concern about the interfaces again?
Yeah, so what's it? I think if you entered in like 127.0.0.1 colon port number, then that would be on the like loopback network interface for that pod. So only like other containers within that pod could access, like could talk over like to, could reach that network port. Other processes like on other pods on the same node wouldn't be able to get to it, and like an outside user wouldn't be able to get to the port. When you use 0.0.0.0 colon a port number, or this is, I think, a shorthand for 0.0, where it's just colon and then the port number, it will listen on all interfaces. So that will be like, even if the pod is exposing a service or exposing a port, then it would be reachable on that. And like a motivation to only do like the 127 or the loopback is like sometimes you might have handlers on your port to like kill the process or restart it, or do something that's more privileged, and so you don't want to expose that to the actual network, but you might want other things within the same interface to be able to reach that. So is that clear anything up?
Yes, I was following. So then your concern, can you repeat how it relates to your concern with this new implementation where we just use the port number?
Because it removes some flexibility on configuring your pod, because you can no longer specify just interfaces, right? Like we are choosing for the user that it will always be the all interfaces, this port on all interfaces. And then separately, it's that the FLAC name, if it is not a full address that's defined, if it's just a port number, then the flag should reflect that and be a number and named port, not metrics dash address, because it would no longer be a valid address.
Gotcha. So then, like, in terms of preserving the flexibility for the user to make that decision, why not just have both? Like, if they just use a port, then it'll be configured for them, and then just keep metrics ADDR to be like the user's choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we could do something like that. Just add a separate flag, and then have some logic around like building the metrics header if it's not set, but port is set. Like,
I think if I may, let me take a step back actually and ask this question. I think creating two flags, to me, like, again, it will create unnecessary confusion. So let me step back and ask this question, whether the line in which I was thinking makes sense or not. First of all, like, I was thinking the reason behind this change, I was thinking, is to simplify it for the user. But if I'm wrong in thinking that, then let's not probably change it. Like, or if you guys think like user is not confused with this, like matrix address and giving colon and whatever port number, then that's okay.
Yeah, I think this initially come up because there was a requirement to expose this port on the Helm chart, right? So they were wondering how can they expose it, and then this being an address, we had to do all the templating foo and Helm charts to make this work. And like, I think that was one of the motivating factors for having something just be a port rather than an address, right?
Correct.
But I think also this point is valid, like where the bind address is something that we determine. like on one side, if we say this is what we're going to bind to, that works, like where we don't give a lot of flexibility to user. But on the other hand, for some reason, if the driver runs on host network or something, and if by default we decide to just bind on everything, then we will be binding on the node IP and the local host and then the default loopback, right? And then binding on the node IP means it's basically the driver is exposed on the node. And there is no way we're restricting users from deploying on host network today. So if they do deploy on host network, and if they see that this is being bound to the node IP, they, at least with metrics address, I think they probably have the flexibility to go and say, instead just listen on local host and 8095, which they can do today. So maybe if we do remove that, it makes it difficult for them to configure that at all in the future.
Makes sense. Okay, then I think we can just then leave the way it is, considering these other factors. And we anyways have like a simple built-in helper function in the Helm chart. So we are anyways.
Yes. Yeah, so I missed the original like issue on the Helm chart, so I don't have that context, but we should make it easy for the users. If this is a point of confusion, then like we should do something, but yeah, that's where I was thinking maybe a separate flag could help there, but also, yeah, multiple flags configure the same thing could lead to different confusion. So
sorry.
Has this been fixed for that user?
Yeah. I mean, for Helm chart, we sort of added this, the one Anish highlighted, right? We have that fix in place. So there is no problem there. So I think that's what I'm saying. So hearing these other context around loopbacks and other things, I think it's okay. Then we can leave it as is.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can probably also add what we discussed today as a comment in that PR, and then just close that PR out so the contributor knows it's not something that we want.
Sure. Cool. Yeah, and I mean, that's it.
I think, okay, yeah, the next one was 724.
Correct.
Yeah.
I just want to follow up, like we are good for the Azure and GCPs. I mean, we did validate for that. So for Vault and AWS, if somebody can validate, we can close this out.
Yeah, I already pinged Tom and Chris. So maybe, yeah, we can again reach out to them on Slack so we can close it this week.
I think, I mean, I reminded yesterday on our thread that is going on. I'll try to ping them individually and see.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, there were only 2 items. But an item that is not on the agenda. So I think we have been, we have all the issues from the stable milestone that we have worked on already. So the pending two was the KEP and the PRR, which we already have a PR for. So what do folks think about a 1.0 release in the upcoming week or the next?
I have one quick question on that line.
Mm-hmm.
The cape that we have created, that's still in review, right? So that's not going to be a blocker, correct? Or will it?
I mean, we want to get the KEP merged because there are few PRR details. So if SIGAUT thinks there are any metrics improvements that we can make before we call it 1.0, it'll be nice. to have. And so I did add it to the agenda yesterday for the SIGAUT call, and it has reviewers now.
Right. So that means if we want to wait for it, then, but we'll not know, right, when that will be completed. I mean, what I'm
Right.
trying to say is, I think other things are in place. So I personally think we can go for the next week. What other things? And if we are go, and if we want to wait for CAP, we also don't know when the CAP will be reviewed by next Monday. So
Yeah, Monday is a long shot.
Hey folks.
Yeah.
I think ideally, like, wouldn't it make sense to wait for the CAP, because then there's less confusion for the users, right? Like when they look at 1.0, it means something. Otherwise you'll be like, well, actually 1. something is the one that's officially stable. Does that make sense?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I reluctantly agree with Rita that we should probably wait on at least an initial review of it. Like,
This might be a good time for an RC though, like a 1.0 RC, because then you tell people, hey, this is the thing that's we're launching, and go and test it. And it's actually going to give us signals if there are issues. Just a thought.
I like that idea.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I can also
So-
try to do a
So looking at this milestone list, it seems like most of it is waiting on the CAB and I guess docs, right? Docs enhancements.
Yeah, I mean, the docs, we've just left it open because there's one doc update that we'll probably have during the 1.0. But apart from that, yeah, we have the KEP and the PRR, which is just one issue.
Okay, gotcha.
Sounds like even like the RC and then the stable might even be the same release if there's no other
Right.
Yes.
code fixes there. Yeah.
Yeah, the only last pending thing that we have to merge is basically updating the liveness probe timeout for Windows and then the resource limits. So we made the changes and we're just waiting for sign off from SIG Windows on the new limits. But yeah, apart from that, there'll be no code changes. So RC and 1.0 will probably be the same.
I think I saw one issue that somebody reported on Slack. I think initially you responded to it, something with the race condition with
Yeah.
like,
So we already merged a PR for it.
where is that? Oh, this guy. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is an interesting scenario where if you're using a stateful set, and then the stateful set pod names are deterministic, right? So they have no UID appended on top of the pod name. And if the pod moves from node 1 to node 2, because of some scale down event or something, and then if the secret provider class pod status has not yet been garbage collected, then we still need to update that existing secret provider class pod status so that it reflects the new pod as the owner, and then it has all the new data. Yeah, I think that's all we have. And then quickly look at the tests. Yeah, the tests have been mostly stable with just 1 or 2 flakes, the periodic ones. And then The post submits have been mostly stable too. I think the one issue yesterday was the Helm one that we were seeing. So because we're using the latest Helm release, and when Helm is actually making a release, the SHA doesn't match. But yeah, okay. Okay, sounds good. So that we will wait for the KEP, and then maybe we will try and release a RC image next week. We'll share with the users and let them know this would probably what 1.0 would look like.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Good to see y'all.
Bye.
Thank you.